The transfer portal season is off and running, so who are a couple of guys that SMU could reasonably target that fit their needs and the budget as well? Let's talk about it. It's Locked On SMU.
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On SMU on this Thursday edition. I'm Grayson Singleton. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day and for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network that is available. Our episode today is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $250 back in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com right now to get started. Coming up on the show today, the transfer portal is going to tell us a couple of things. One, how serious SMU is about putting together a winning basketball product. And two, what can that money do for the Mustangs? What can it really do? We'll talk about that. Plus, at the end of the show, Jalen Hale is generating a ton of buzz right now for SMU football. Is he going to be the #1 wide receiver for this squad? That'll be to close up the show. But first, I want to start with a couple of names that I think SMU could reasonably get and would be good fits for. Now, for those of you on YouTube watching, you see that that's second on the list, not first. I decided to switch it right before I started recording. But when you look at SMU's needs in the portal, you need point guard help, you need as many two-way wings as you can get, and you need big men depth. There's two that I think could be very interesting commodities for SMU. One, I think really high of. The other, I think pretty high of, but with a caveat. So let's go with the first one. The first one would be Justin McBride. He's going to be the lesser of the two names we're going to talk about. But Justin McBride is a former four-star recruit. Those of you that follow the Texas high school scene will remember him from Plano East High School 3 years ago. He spent 3 years in college at 3 different colleges. Started out at Oklahoma State, transferred to Nevada, and then transferred to James Madison, where he played last season. And in that season with James Madison, he averaged 15 points a night on 40% shooting from 3. He's always been a sharp shooter. Now, he kind of has a funky release. So if you ever watched him, you're like, how does a dude with that kind of release knock down 40% of his threes? That's his specialty. He is a sharp shooter, and SMU could use one of those. Especially, again, if you're able to land a guy like Dink Pate, which we haven't heard a lot of movement on. But Justin McBride, a very efficient scorer and a big dude as well. 6'7", 240 pounds, a former 4-star recruit, if I remember correctly, when he was coming out of Plano East. So SMU's going to need bigger wings. I like a 6'7", 240-pound guy. Bring him back home to Dallas. I don't think he's going to be overly pricey. I do think a guy that shoots 40% from 3 in a college basketball world that is not rife with a lot of dead-eye shooters is going to command some money. But I think SMU would have a compelling pitch to bring a guy over from James Madison, bring him back down to closer to home. He's been traveling around, trying to look for the right fit. It's understandable why he's gone from school to school. He left Oklahoma State when Mike Boynton Jr. was fired, and Mike Boynton was the one that brought him on. That's when he went to Nevada and then didn't really work there, went to James Madison and lit it up for them. Shot 49.4% from the field overall. So if you can have this guy as a 3 or maybe your small ball 4 as a floor spacer, because that's what he is, he makes a lot of sense. He makes a ton. Justin McBride, I think, makes a ton of sense for what SMU is going to need for this upcoming season. Quiet guy, at least when he was at Oklahoma State. Not a guy that's going to say a whole heck of a lot, but 3-and-D type of player that we talked about a couple of days ago. He would fit that billing for sure, and shouldn't cost you bank-breaking type of money to be able to go get him from James Madison. But in terms of a pure shooter, he's going to be one of the better pure shooters in the transfer portal this year. The second guy I want to keep an eye on is a name that you guys might be more familiar with, and that is former Kentucky center Brandon Garrison. Now, Brandon Garrison comes with a lot of upside. Highly athletic body, pretty strong too. Very twitchy, can jump out the gym, and he's a former McDonald's All-American out of Del City High School in Oklahoma before he went to Oklahoma State and then left when Mike Boynton Jr. was fired. Now, he spent 2 years at Kentucky, and the stats won't show it, but there has been improvement from him. He's putting the ball on the deck a little bit more. His body has gotten better, and he's rebounding a little bit better as well. Now, the case with Brandon Garrison and why he is such a conundrum, because a lot of you are going to look at the stats and be like, wait, Grayson, you want us to bring in a guy that averaged 4.8 points per game? Yeah, he did average 4.8 points per game. Here's the downside to Brandon Garrison. He's a double-edged sword. But the downside to Brandon Garrison is that little bit soft. Can we put it that way? Little bit soft. I remember when I was at Oklahoma State covering the team his freshman year, and that was the belief around people in the media. I remember doing radio with an older gentleman who is a media legend around Oklahoma. I remember doing radio with him, and that was one of his knocks on Brandon Garrison, was that back then his freshman year, he was soft. And even today, while he has gotten more physical, he's gotten more assertive going for rebounds, I'll give him credit for that, he still is a little bit of a little bit of a knucklehead, a little bit of an attitude. But for what SMU needs, I think he could fit the billing in terms of bench depth. I don't know if he's your starting five, but he would be a nice ACC second center. Oh my goodness, he would be. Now, here's the thing. While he can present a lot of upside, when it comes to Brandon Garrison, who I believe is in the top 100 in terms of the transfer portal ranking, somewhere in the 90 to 95 range when I looked yesterday. The thing with Brandon Garrison is that you do not want to overpay for this dude. There are certain centers that, based on what they have put on tape and have displayed on the college basketball floor, you'd be okay saying, okay, I would overpay for that guy. I would go into the $3 million range for that guy. I would match bid for bid for that guy. Brandon Garrison's not that guy. Brandon Garrison is a little bit more replaceable to just go spend $3.5 million. I would not pay that price for him. But if the asking price is not extreme, I think Brandon Garrison could be a fit because he runs the floor well too. He runs the floor well, can run lanes very well, athletic at the catch point in terms of rebounding. I think there is a fit for him. Now, if SMU were to bring him in, and I'm not putting them as the favorite to do so, but if SMU was going to bring him in, you would have to temper expectations. This is not a guy that's going to average 12 and 7. Okay, but athletic body, can distort shots, can run the floor, presents upside as a lob threat. I think there's a fit for him. I love the fit for Justin McBride because I think SMU needs shooters. They need shooters and they need big wings. And Justin McBride would certainly fit that billing. But Brandon Garrison could be a guy that you could bring in, interesting fit, if the price is right. I'm not overpaying for this guy. If Brandon Garrison's camp demands $3.5 million, I'd say no thanks. But if the asking price is right, I think he's a guy that can fit. Brandon Garrison, that being. All right, just getting started. Locked on SMU here on a Thursday. Hey, coming up next, what can SMU's money do? Can the Mustangs lure some highly coveted prospects by saying, you know what, we're just going to give you a bag? Talk about that next. Locked on SMU continues after this. The NBA playoffs are here, where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. Here's what I like about FanDuel. You can bet just $5, and if you win, you get $250 in bonus bets if that first bet cashes. That's right, just $5, and if you pick right, you got $250 to play around with, my friend. The app makes it easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, that extra insight really matters. When you're looking at stars, role players, and key moments, and even past events as well, all that knowledge is going to be right there for you in the FanDuel app, whether you're picking a 1-8 matchup or a much closer one like a 4-5, which my Lakers could end up being in. We'll talk about that another time. Head to FanDuel.com now to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Locked on SMU. Appreciate you guys making us your first listen of the day. Hey, make sure you tap in with the Everydayer Club. Get ad-free shows plus members-only Discord access at the link in the show notes or the description, or go to lockedonsmu.supercast.com to learn more. I'm Grayson Singleton. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you like this content as well. Really helps us out. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel as well. Okay, so what can SMU's money do? And that'll tell you a lot about a program. Because SMU, even though SMU's got a lot of money in the bank, a lot of money from donations. What are they, 2 months removed from a $50 million gift? That is not all going to go to football. SMU's not strapped for cash. We know this. And it, at least on the football side, has partially expedited their success when it comes to the Power Four. But this basketball thing is going to be very curious to me, because what kind of a sales pitch can SMU get? What kind of sales pitch can SMU give? When it comes to money, we all know about that. But there's also this new addition to the staff called Jason Hart. There also is, we made the NCAA tournament. There also is, we brought in Andy Enfield, and he's won 20 games in each of his first 2 seasons, something no other coach at SMU has ever done. Oh, and by the way, we can give you a boatload of money. You like that too? It's going to say an interesting bit about the program if the Mustangs can have a successful transfer portal class or cannot. Because if they can't, we have a lot of questions to ask. Well, why do people not want to come play at SMU? I mean, we've had relative success relative to where we've been, and now we're in the Power Four. We've got this guy in Jason Hart who's got all these connections, and we can pay you a crap load of money. Why do people not want to come play? If I'm SMU, as long as the coaching staff properly evaluates and puts a red eye on the proper targets that it needs to, SMU should have a successful transfer portal class, because at the bare minimum, they can make some dudes rich. I mean, I don't know a whole lot of 20, 21, 22-year-olds that don't want to be rich. I mean, everybody talks about, I want to make 6 figures when I grow up. Here you go. Come to SMU. But what can SMU's money actually do? But it's not just SMU's money. And this is why the transfer portal cycle is going to be so interesting for SMU, because it's not just their money. It's not just money that is a part of the pitch for the Mustangs. It is, we've had 2 really good seasons under this head coach who took USC to the NCAA tournament a couple of times. Took Florida Gulf Coast and Lob City, or Dunk City. Lob City was the Clippers. Took Dunk City to the NCAA tournament. Made a huge run. Was one of the great Cinderella stories of my young lifetime. That guy's coaching SMU. You brought in a dude who coached at the G League level. Is a transfer portal ace. Like, people don't realize Jason Hart is a transfer portal ace. When he joined Mark Pope's staff at Kentucky, they hit it in the transfer portal. Brought over Denzel Aberdeen from a national champion Florida team this year. Brought over Otega Owe from Oklahoma and turned him into probably the best big shot maker in all of college basketball. Mohamed Diabate, Andrew Carr from Wake Forest, Brandon Garrison, who we just talked about, was a guy they brought in from Oklahoma State, did some good things for them. You right now have a combination of recent winning, a transfer portal star when it comes to bringing guys in on your staff. Oh, and by the way, coffers. Like, I don't see a reason why SMU should not be able to have a very nice transfer portal haul and have us excited for next season. Because with those things in place, why would you not want to come play for SMU? I don't get it. Now SMU's not going to be the prime destination. Like, I'm not saying that. Like, if Michael Malone calls you and says, hey, you want to come be a North Carolina Tar Heel, and Andy Enfield is calling you and says, hey, you want to come be an SMU Mustang, reasonable people can assert, okay, dude's probably going to go to North Carolina. All right? Like, there's still levels to this. Even though SMU is in the ACC now, there's still some levels to this. But they still should be able to get their quality players. If SMU puts a red eye on a mid-major guy, SMU should be able to develop a relationship, have a quality pitch, present a proposal in terms of compensation, and get it done. The Mustangs should be able to do that, and they should be able to rebuild their roster. And by the way, it's not like they are inept at doing it. They did it last year. Look at a guy like Jerron Pierre Jr., who was the Sun Belt leading scorer at Jacksonville State. Brought him in, and he did good things for SMU. Wish he probably defended more, but did good things. A couple of years ago, Boopy Miller got him over from Wake Forest. BJ Edwards turned into a real glue guy. Got him from Knoxville, Tennessee to come to Dallas, Texas. So they can do it. They've shown they can do it. But now with all this money, and we know that they've got all this money to throw around, can you do it at an even better clip is what I'm looking for when it comes to SMU. So what can that money do? SMU, what can that money do? I know people have a negative connotation around buying a roster. Let's put that in air quotes. For those of you on the audio side, we just put the whole buying a roster thing in air quotes. To me, it's just called capitalism. Pay for, you get what you pay for. It's how our society works. But that to me is what SMU is looking at. And to me, I expect SMU to have a roster that once I break it down, I can see the vision in. Once I break it down, I can get pretty excited about heading into next year. Because it's not just the money that is a nice proposal and a nice starting point for SMU, but it's also, we've got some structure here, and we're winning games. Oh, and by the way, I can make you rich. I think that should be a good enough proposal for a lot of people as it pertains to why they should come play at Southern Methodist University for their next year of basketball. All right, coming up next, we'll close up the show talking some football. This Hale kid from Alabama, is he going to be a star? We'll close up the show talking about that next.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. UCLA made history by winning its first NCAA Women's Basketball National Championship, dominating South Carolina 79-51. The Bruins controlled the game from start to finish with elite defense and balanced scoring, finishing the season 37-1. Star center Lauren Betts was named Most Outstanding Player, leading a team effort that capped a 31-game winning streak. Under head coach Corey Close, UCLA secured a landmark title that has been decades in the making. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes. I'm coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Final segment here on Locked On SMU here on this Thursday edition. Hey, coming up tomorrow, we'll have more transfer portal talk as more news and more trends start to emerge. But we hope you stay with us for that Friday edition to round out the week. But something I wanted to bring up at the end of this show was Jalen Hale, the wide receiver transfer from Alabama, over now to SMU. And a lot of buzz coming out about Jalen Hale, man. A lot of buzz. If there is a guy that the nation had forgotten about that I think is going to emerge this year, I think Jalen Hale is going to be that guy. I also think Jalen Hale, quite frankly, from the reporting that has come out of fall camp, might be their number one wide receiver. Like we thought, we were led to believe that guy was going to be Yannick Smith. When we were doing the transfer portal cycles and the timeline of those guys' additions and their history, but it looks like that guy could be Jalen Hale. As a matter of fact, I'll say it on April the 9th. I think Jalen Hale is going to be their number one wide receiver, given health. And health has been a reason that he's one of the nation's more forgotten guys, because coming out of high school, Jalen Hale, according to 24/7 Sports, was a 4-star 97. I mean, an electric prospect. A guy that a lot of people were excited about. A guy that Alabama was excited when they beat Georgia, USC, and Texas for the Longview, Texas wide receiver. But injuries and the fact that Alabama has always had a litany of excellent wide receivers, just prevented him from ever really doing anything at Alabama. And now it's a guy that's looking for a fresh start. And I think he's taking full advantage of it. I think he's healthy. That's the main thing, is that Jalen Hale is healthy this year. And when you drop him in a receiver room and give him the development that Rob Likens has given quite a few receivers over the last couple of years. I mean, you look at Roderick Daniels, turned him into a good prospect that went to an NFL training camp. I need to double check and see if he's on a roster. But Roderick Daniels, Jordan Hudson, Romello Brinson had a solid year this year when he kept his head on straight and wasn't drawing unsportsmanlike penalties. And you look at the early development from Jalen Cooper and Carterius Brown, guys that you feel good about. I think you can feel good about a former 4-star kid who really just needs a chance to get on the field. And a lot of that chance has to do with the fact that he's got to keep himself available. Like the best ability is availability when it comes to sports. So Jalen Hale, to me, is a guy that you could see as your number one, but he could be a guy that's going to be a number one with a pretty nice receiving core. Like, no shade to Yannick Smith and Jalen Cooper. I think Carterius Brown could certainly have a role on this squad. Isaiah Robertson, we've heard some good things about coming out of spring practices. But this can be a nice wide receiver core led by Jalen Hale. And I would love to see the breakout. Isn't there something about breakout stories that is just cool, right? Like, you get a guy who's had a tough beginning to a career, and then all of a sudden, bang. And then you look back and you're watching the game on TV, and people are like, wait a minute, who is this guy? Oh, wait, let's dig back deeper into the notes. Like, I do play-by-play. I know how the notes thing works and everything and the storytelling. Like, won't it be cool that when Jalen Hale has a big game, maybe on national television, and they detail the litany of injuries and that he was a 4-star kid, and now all of a sudden here he is popping for SMU. Like, can you imagine that? Because I can, based on what's come out of spring practice. This is the entirety of his college career. In 2023, he caught 5 balls for 148 yards. That's 30 yards per catch. Good Lord. And a touchdown, including a 51-yarder. That's his entire career. Just hasn't been able to stay healthy in 2024 and 2025. And if this kid stays healthy this year, I think you've got a talent on your hand. I really, really do. But if you're starting 3 wide receivers are Jalen Hale, Yannick Smith, Jalen Cooper operating out of the slot. You got Ymir Knight operating out of the slot as well. I guess Jalen Cooper's an outside wide receiver, so he'll be in the rotation. But then you got Ymir Knight working the slot, and then Theo Mellon Orstrom as your tight end. Randy Pittman in there as well. Experience depth there. Maybe run you a 2 tight end set every now and then. Pretty good offense. It's a pretty talented offense. And I know the defense should be improved too, but the more I look at it, the more I say, wait a minute, I think this offense is going to be maybe not something special, or shoot, it could be something special. But the more I look at it, I think this offense is going to do some big-time stuff this year. This is going to be a big-time offense for Rhett Lashley and this squad, because show me the weakness. Show me the weakness. I mean, I guess we don't really know what's going on at left guard. The left side of the offensive line still needs to be ironed out. Okay, maybe there's your weakness right there. But you don't have a weakness at quarterback. You damn sure don't have a weakness at running back. The right side of the offensive line is outstanding. And your wide receiver core is really good. Brought in 2 very good transfer portal tight ends as well. I don't know where the weakness in this offense is. If they're on their stuff, especially early on in the season when you've got those early road tests against Florida State and Louisville, then it's gonna show us a lot. But I think SMU's offense is gonna be really good. I think it's gonna be really, really good, especially with a quarterback who's now going to be in his 4th year in the system and his 3rd year, I guess 2nd and a half year as a starter. I really like what this SMU offense can do. But going back to Jalen Hale, I think this is going to be a story potentially that is told nationally because of what he could potentially do day in and day out. That doesn't mean he's going to win the Biletnikoff. What it does mean, though, is that to a national audience that's watching a particular SMU game, I think this guy is going to be spotlighted and his story is going to be told, and it's going to be something really cool. Because what we see out of spring practice and what we're hearing out of spring practice is kid's a dog. Kid is a dog, and it's a kid that just had to get healthy. And now that he's gotten healthy, he's going to show us what he can do. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, that'll do it for Locked On SMU in this Thursday edition. Appreciate you guys making us your first listen of the day. Make sure you check out the Everydayer Club for ad-free episodes of this show, compatible with Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And for your second listen of the day, check out our National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel on audio. Make sure you tap in with Locked On College Basketball. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow to round out the week. Take